All right, so I really wanted to start a podcast with my brother and sister, what last year, and it was just really just going to talk about, different shows and movies that we've seen, since, the last episode. It's going to be like a continuum of what the one episode was. It was like going to be like serial whatnot, but hey, sometimes things happen. I mean, we might still do it, but I mean, since then I've lost the cover. But I just want to address something for a second. I'm a movie buff. I'm a entertainer, but going back again, I'm not just gonna be doing anything for your entertainment. See, I can talk about fictional things because they're fictional. When it comes to nonfiction, I had to remove myself from that because when you start becoming part of the world with gossip, when you start becoming part of this world with, you know, certain immoral sexuality, and when you start becoming more of this world, just with the artificial uh systems of what we do to keep ourselves entertained, it's a fine line. You know what I'm saying?
What's up, blessed ones? You are now blaring the podcast. Brought to you by AB1 Studios. Thank you for your time. Listening. You wanna know something else, blessed ones? It's a
So my main thing today, I wanted to talk about something in particular that I always wanted to talk about. I'm really trying to get into my streaming, get into my review contents. And like I mentioned, I wanted to do something with my brother and sister, which I think in the near future we might still be able to do. But right now, just like I said, scheduling just hasn't been really what it was. I want to talk about Cobra Kai. For those of you who do not know, that is the spinoff, the continuing of Karate Kid. But this one is particularly about, Cobra Kai. Ralph Macchio and William Zabka stars in it. And then, you have people recurring their roles. Martin Cove, what's Mr. Silver's name? I forgot his name. Ian Nicholas or something. And then, Chosen, I forgot his name. Sorry. There's a lot of, it's on season 6, and part 2 of season 6, ended, came, I went through that. But there are certain things in Cobra Kai that I seen, that I acknowledge, that I'm actually happy that I seen, because there's Like I like a lot of, fictional shows, but it also always have a message in it. Sometimes it goes back to, hey, rehashing, you know, certain issues or looking at something one way, but somebody else might have a different way. Because you can be totally against someone. Somebody can have your differences, but be somewhat similar. So that's why sometimes it's even hard. Like I say, sometimes for me, it's like I don't try to misjudge anybody because we all have our struggles. I will look at someone, and there could be certain things that I don't like, but I always look at somebody and see myself. No matter if you're successful, not successful, ugly, good looking, whatever you are, I always look at people as myself. So that's the one thing that I will say is that I give people grace, but at the same time, got to hold people accountable. So Cobra Kai, it's about just to give y'all a little backstory for those of you who haven't seen the Karate Kid. It's roughly mainly hey, about new kid coming in, started getting bullied by the karate gang, and then his neighbor who became his mentor, became his best friend, taught him karate, and then he overcame. So they had 3 movies, and then of course the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank dropped like in 95 or whatnot, but she hasn't came on the show. But it's just pretty much just a show of different character development. It's a show of redemption. It's a show of forgiveness. It's a show of rebirth. It's a show of adversity. It's a show of love. It's a show. It has all these different dynamics. There's about 5 Karate Kids on this show. You got Miguel Nunez, who's the main guy. He's a Karate Kid. New kid didn't really know much, but John Lawrence, who was actually the villain in the first one, who became, he went through his struggles, but he's came around. But you have Miguel. Then you have Robbie, who is also John Lawrence's actual son. And he goes through his struggles. He wasn't well, I'm going to say this. He was a bad kid, troubled kid more so. He was a Karate Kid. Then you have Kenny, who was, just a, young dude, just minding his business, partying, then who ended up getting bullied by Daniel LaRusso's son and his buddies, which, of course, in some sense, Daniel LaRusso's son, I give him a little grace. He wasn't really trying to bully him. He was just more so trying to fit in. But this is kind of what happens when you have a kid who is privileged, and then you still, like, even privileged kids be trying to fit in with the cool kids because they're not bullies, but it's like sometimes it's almost kind of like, Daniel wasn't a bad dude. Like he was a little hothead. He was an a-hole or whatnot. But, a lot of that, he still taught his kids. You can kind of see like, okay, he was slacking. He was slacking off a little bit with his children. He wasn't really disciplining them. I mean, Sam, who is, I feel like, also is, she already knew karate, but I could throw her in there also as a Karate Kid. And then, there's Eli. Eli, who was, he was a nerd, still a nerd. He kind of ended up joining Cobra Kai just to kind of get at the bullies. And he became hard, yo. He became hard, and he started hanging out with the people who was bullying him, and then he kind of started dissing his boy, and he broke his boy's arm, and his boy, and then they kind of had their little issues, and then they made up. And I'm just kind of just summarizing things. But the interesting thing, one of the most interesting things to me about this show is that Mr. Miyagi is dead. But, we're learning things. We've been learning things through the whole series. And even though part 3 of season 6 doesn't come out until February, I feel like this is probably going to be the most impactful season. And this is going to kind of come to Karate Kid Legacy, which you're going to see Han. And my prediction, and I'm going to say this, something's going to happen to where he finds out that, Han has some connection to Mr. Miyagi. Because at first, the crazy thing is, Jackie Chan wasn't part of the Miyagi universe. But, since Will Smith is involved in, the Cobra Kai, they ended up intertwining. So Han is going to have some connection to Mr. Miyagi in some way. So I want to say that Karate Kid Legacy it's gonna like when I want to say February, when February drops with the third part, I want to say that the Karate Kid, when does Karate Kid Legacy comes out? Karate Kid Legends or Legacy or something like that. The release date for it is going to be in May. So the interesting thing about that is it says Karate Kid Legends American martial arts film directed by Jonathan Idle. So, look, they got they're gonna have Joshua Jackson and everybody in there, but it comes out next year. It's not that far. It's been development since 2022, but the casting took place in November 23. So this been going on for a while. Now, I'm still interested to see if Hilary Swank is going to show up in, the last part, because just from what I know, nobody contacted her. But like I said, Cobra Kai is a show with these different character developments. Now, the first 2 seasons did start on YouTube. I got on it late, but like I said, I'm all caught up, and I'm gonna be honest. You have certain shows where it's like, hey, you got it'd be so good that you gotta binge watch it. But then it's like once you binge watch it, it's kind of like, man, that's it. So that's why I'm like, okay, that's one thing I will say about the different stories, different streaming services, because there's always going to be something that you can look at. For me, like Cobra Kai was like, hey, I don't have the means to, pay another $20 for another season of Sisters. One of my other favorite shows too. Even with All American. All American was another one of my favorite shows that ended. I want to say Homecoming was great. That ended as well. But Cobra Kai might have been in my top of the line show. And it's so good. Like I'll go back and start it over. That one and All American. I'm not gonna start All American over right now, but I will literally rewatch Cobra Kai. But it's just certain things that I noticed, and the crazy thing about it is not to do like a spoiler, because I do still want to be fair, because some people, like I said, if you have it, you can watch it, but I will just tell you these are the Karate Kids, and like Cobra Kai is one of those things. But going to the point of what I'm saying is, you got to be careful who you pretend to be, because when it's all said and done, you are who you pretend to be. So with that, you have to stand your ground no matter what it is that you're doing. So if you're getting bullied, I know some people aren't always going to have the courage or the strength to stand up for themselves. But my thing is, once you learn how to defend yourself, you have to always remember and say, look, I'm going to defend myself now. Defend yourself if you got to. Defend yourself by any means, but just be careful not to turn into the same person who was bullying, because it goes back again to when we can go back and go back to even doing, with what the injustices, because I'll be online and I'll be looking at these different hot takes, these different points. Even when it comes to hey, how a lot of these rappers used to talk about not getting a fair shake in the industry, and then when they get into a certain level, they start doing the same things that the people who was coming at them or oppressing them do. So it's almost kind of like, you ain't really you're not trying to really fight for, right. You just trying to, be treated the same way. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this live in color. We all not created equal. Once we realize that, once we understand that, once we all get on that same page, the world can be better. It's not classism and racism isn't the issue, because it's all about, nepotism, because you gotta look out for your people. Bigotry is wrong, right? Bigotry is the wrong thing. Even being someone who comes from a different background, who might not be as privileged as you, you can't treat them any less. Treat them accordingly, but don't treat them any less of a person. You don't have to, be friends with everybody. You don't have to be cool with everybody, but just treat everybody respectfully. You can be, you can move a different way from someone. You can be, you can show favoritism to someone if that's your person, but there's a difference between just and fair. There's a difference between love and lust. There's a difference between, racism and bigotry and prejudice and, all that. So even in Cobra Kai, a lot of classism was going on. You know what I'm saying? But it goes back again to where it's like, hey, this is also like a, it's kind of wild where it's like, hey, it's a new generation. I mean, of course, we all, use profanity and everything now, but it's like, it's a different generation. But it's like, man, I'm 37 years old looking at this show, and I don't even know what the age dynamic is, because it's something that I can show my son and stuff. I don't want him cussing none, but it's something that I can show him, and I'm like, even somebody in their 40s can look at it, because you still have characters that are older than me in here that it's about them as well. And one thing that I also noticed was, like, hey, Daniel, he's always kind of had this demeanor about him where it's like, hey, he's always kind of like sticking his, he always overreacts too soon. He wants to, teach the children karate the way that Mr. Miyagi taught him, and but he also has to keep in mind that as wise as Mr. Miyagi was, this man was old when he met him. So sometimes you gotta allow, like, again, you gotta allow people to, be different, show some grace a little bit when it comes to, especially when it comes to, children. They're a little bit more sensitive. Like I said, when I was a child, I acted as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. So sometimes we have to show grace in that sense. But Cobra Kai is one of my favorite shows. I mean, don't want to give too much away, but 6 seasons, part 2 of season 6 just dropped last Friday. I didn't look at it. I didn't see the reviews. Looked at the show. If y'all are still interested in looking at it, you can go on Netflix. And then if you have some way to, kind of like get, download some things, you can look at that as well. But it jumps so good, man. That's one of my, that's one of my favorite shows right now. Kind of sad that they did that, but my main thing is just allowing people to grow and learn. But like I mentioned, the 5 Karate Kids, I'm gonna say, you have Miguel, who's the main dude. Then you have Robbie, Samantha, Eli, and Kenny. And then there's a lot of other notable mentions, but those are the main 5, because even with Tori and Dimitri and young Anthony and all them, being on there, but I think those are like the top 5 Karate Kids. And I think maybe even Devin Lee can be a notable mention, but it's like there's it's just a lot. It's a lot. Not to really like go into it too much, but it's just something that I wanted to point out. But if you do want to if you want to talk about it, if you want to come up here and talk about it, we can do a whole episode about this. Us personally, I always try to be engaging. So if you have any questions, suggestions, requests, you know what to do. But as always, stay safe, prosperous, productive, and positive. This is Blair. I'm out.